Yo, yo, welcome to the Legends Pod. Today, sitting down with my guy, Jonathan Wyndham. He's joining us live from Nashville, Tennessee, the country music capital of the world. Jonathan's going to take us through his experiences in country music and rock and roll. Also going to take us down his journey and how he landed on some of these national tours with the likes of Jesse James Decker. Jonathan and I, a little backstory, met at an event last year in New York City for New Year's Eve. Super cool cat, crazy talented musician and artist. If you're into country music and rock and roll, I think you guys are thoroughly going to enjoy. Thanks for listening. Start from the beginning before we get into kind of what you have going on now. But
okay,
going back in time a little bit, how did the whole music thing, maybe bring me up to speed on how everything started up until this point.
Yeah. So, and I'll give you like the really Spark Notes version, because ain't nobody needed like a monologue about this. But my mom plays piano,
okay,
organ, and she's a super gnarly musician. So, but like very classically trained. So I was brought up, and my parents are together always my entire life have been. So I got kind of a two-tiered approach with music, right? So I got my mom, who is super classically trained, like she likes rock band, but like Queen, like stuff that feels composed and epic and, got plenty of piano in it. She loves Billy Joel, that kind of vibe. And then my dad, who's like, when he was my age, would be like, maybe a sheet to the wind on the front of a Skynyrd concert,
Sure.
What I mean?
Yeah.
So, and Dad and I would always like go on road trips because I grew up going to like Clemson football games because we're big Clemson fans, just like in the family.
And we'll get into that. We'll get into that soon. Yeah.
So, going to Clemson games, which is like 2 hours away from my hometown of Lexington, South Carolina, or going hunting, and we'd go we had part of the Saluda River Hunting Club, which is like when you know what I mean?
Gotcha. Okay.
It's a killer hunting club. So we would, and that was like an hour 45 to 2 hours away. So we just spend tons of time in the car. And Dad's like, here's the Allman Brothers band. Here's Leonard Skinner, all the music my mom didn't necessarily like because gratuitous guitar solos and, like ZZ Top. Like,
sure. Oh,
Dress Man and Push. They're a wee bit like dude strong songs for my mom's taste, but me and Dad are just like, just got paid today,
Yeah. No, my pop's actually a big ZZ Top fan too. So
have you seen that the documentary on Netflix?
I haven't.
It's called like Little Band from Texas or something like that. It's pretty good.
Really?
Yeah.
I mean, at this point with everything going on, my list is getting longer, but
yeah,
I go through it so quick because, there's not a whole lot else to do. So I'm going to definitely check that out.
Are you a single dude? Are you married?
Single.
Okay. So you got time.
I got time. Yeah. It's a party of one over here. So
yeah, when you're married, man, it's like, things just happen.
Yep.
Like this afternoon, I was so wrapped up in the Oxbox thing, and Ainsley was with me, and she's like, let's stop at Sonic. Because things are starting to open in Nashville.
Yeah. I love that.
It's been so long since I've had ice cream. And I was like, let's do it. And then you texted me right then, and I was like, oh no,
yeah.
I'm an idiot.
It's so easy right now just to I get lost in days and time. It's actually crazy. There's weeks where I'm I honestly, gun to my head, I have no idea what day it is.
Yeah. And I'm trying to be productive, and I know you sent me a couple prompt questions about it, and you were like, how has the quarantine affected you as a songwriter and singer? And it's actually on that side of my career made me way more productive.
Yeah.
So I'm actually pedal to the metal part of the time, but
totally
that headspace where you're and what day is today? Like,
Yeah.
trash go out, because that's how I mark my day.
What day is trash day?
Wednesday.
Yes.
Like,
Yeah, that's interesting, man. But I was actually, I mean, it kind of is a pretty natural segue, but the music side of it, so you're doing like your songwriting and producing and that kind of stuff. And that's actually why I was so curious about it, because even doing the podcast stuff, like it's like full time for me almost, because I have the time to do it, so I can kind of tap into this side of it. But I actually got prompted that because of what I'm doing. I'm like, oh, it's got to be, I know a lot of people are slowing down with their normal stuff, but for like producers and songwriters, it's got to be like another day at the office almost.
Well, it kind of depends on what you're used to, I think. Because like I love, there's a podcast called And the Writer Is, and it's a couple cats. Ross Golan is like the host, and a couple other dudes from this publishing company, Big Deal Music, produce it. And he interviews other professional songwriters. And these are all cats that like dudes and girls that are like signed to publishing companies. So they have someone setting up their calendar. And so they'll get together and like Captain Planet, and like come together and join forces and write a song in a day.
Yeah.
So if you're used to that, this is a very disconcerting time.
Sure.
Suddenly you're trying to take what was normally fluid and like really vibey, and you go into someone's studio and you're writing a song and you're real time bouncing off of each other. Now it's like Zoom, and if someone has a bad data connection, it's just hell.
Yes, I do. It's definitely not the same. That's for sure.
But I've always been more of I'll bring people in to finish stuff, but I call it chasing the rabbit, but like I'll like get a guitar tone dialed up or something, or a buddy of mine will send me drums, or like a bunch of my drummer buddies will send stuff or whatever, and it'll just kind of flow. And then I'm like, wait, who would write this song really well with me? Who would capture the vibe of this song? And if it's like a rock and roll song, I'm just gonna call one of my buddies who plays like bass, and we're gonna write it together. One, because they don't normally get to write songs, and songwriting is, when it's someone who doesn't normally write songs, they're not scared of bad ideas yet. So like the Aerosmith called it the Dare to Suck thing. They'd have like a weekly meeting where they throw out bad ideas, and then they'd come out with something like "Dude Look Like a Lady."
Yeah,
that's just like a preposterous song. So one, I love that, and two, on like a fiscal point of view, if you're friends with someone, like songwriting, you own that in perpetuity. So like if I'm friends with you and you're a bass player, and I feel like we would jive and would respect each other and maybe write some cool music, I want to write with you, because then if it's successful, like you're going to get paid for the rest of your life off that song.
Yeah.
And so like, how cool is that?
Totally, man.
Share that moment. And unfortunately, this industry climate is not very conducive to people being in bands, because everyone's social media is so into like one person. And so, but I tried to start a band for like 3 years, and just, produce some killer music. All my friends, to the point where my friends were like, hey, we all make living like playing music for other people as sidemen, and we don't want to strain our friendship with you. Like each one of them kind of said this to me independently. They're like, I don't want to strain my relationship with you by me not being able to make this and you trying to make this band work. You should release it as your solo project, and then just call me to play. And if I can, I will. And if not, I'll sub out, and it's not a big deal. And it was like, it took all three of the dudes telling me that for me to be like, okay, I'll do it solo. But
totally,
that's
man.
actually coming out later, or in June.
Like, so we got some solo stuff in the works.
Dude, scary good. And because I've kept writing that and like producing that. Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Dude, that's
a special thing. Yeah, I'll tell you about it off the podcast.
Okay, all right. That's what
that'll be out like also in June. So it's just like,
oh, dude, June's a monster month.
Yeah, and so Ainsley, my wife, and I, because it's kind of like a tight little thing. I don't have like a huge machine behind me, so we're trying to like research and find out all about like how to line everything out correctly. So like we had photos done yesterday, and just like
Yeah.
In the quarantine is just like your one friend who you can trust to not be irresponsible. You can also take photos. We'll come
Yeah.
and shoot it. But
Totally, man. No, those are that's exciting, man. So that's next month, and that's
yeah, it's gonna be fun. But
June.
with the way putting out music is, if you want to like submit it to playlisting, you have to do it like a couple weeks out. So I'm actually submitting the first single today for it to go out. What day is it? Hold on, I'll check my calendar just to actually give you real information.
Love it.
First song is called "Give It All." It's a banger. I'll just send you the SoundCloud for the EP. It's dope.
Yes.
That'll be released on Cinco de June.
Cinco de June.
Yeah, because why not?
Why not? Oh,
Any
yeah.
excuse to drink margaritas.
Yeah, exactly. You can do one, release one every 5th.
My wife threw me a surprise birthday party because my birthday is January 5th, and she called it Cinco de Jonathan. It was 2 years ago, and like all my friends showed up, and we just like
That's gnarly.
margaritas. And
oh man,
but she actually tricked me into cooking for it because I cook. Like I'm more the cook of the two.
Yeah.
And she's like, "Let's meal prep. I think we should do fajitas this week." I was like, "No way." She wants to eat fajitas every day. This is heaven. She just wanted me to make enough for the party.
Yeah, exactly. You got conned into cooking for your own thing, but
it was a good con, dude.
No, yeah, that's money right there. So,
Yeah.
so you got this stuff coming out in June. So you.
Oh, sorry. So to go back to the music question, because you.
Yeah. No, we'll get there.
I'm super ADD, so I'll bounce back.
All good, brother.
I think that's what makes me write songs, though, is that pinball mindset of like take a ZZ Top song, like just got paid today. You're like, it's a Friday, you hit your bank account, and then suddenly you immediately go to what you want to buy, and then you're like, wow, I feel like I'm free falling. Like I could do anything right now. That feeling, you know?
Yeah.
And then you start like bebopping around, and then you're playing guitar or whatever, and you're like, oh, how's this make me feel? You know, like, and you're there. Anyway.
Dude, love it.
Mom's super classical, dad's super rock and roller. And then mom's like, you got to learn an instrument. And she's such a good piano player. I was like, no, not piano. I don't want her to be like, that's wrong. And now I'm learning piano, like seriously. And my mom's an incredible resource. But when you're 11, 12, 13-year-old dude,
yeah,
you don't have the humility yet to accept advice from all angles. And you hate being bad at anything.
Sure.
Everyone hates sucking. But yeah.
No, nobody, yeah. Everyone hates being wrong and everyone hates sucking at something.
Yeah. So I loved guitar, and we had like this old nylon string guitar at the house, which I didn't realize was so cool. And I actually just picked it up last time I was home and restrung it. It's like a 72. It's right here. And it sounds incredible, you know? This is the second set of strings I ever had on it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Layla, you got me on my knees, Layla. You know, like.
Yeah. Dude, that's so badass, actually.
Anyway, so I started playing on that, and I was like, Dad, because to me, it was like, because of my dad's teachings, because everybody wants to grow up and be like the dad, and it was like bands equal cool. So I was like, guitar, cool. Acoustic guitar, not as cool as electric guitar. You know, so
totally.
I was an EB kid. I was like super chunky. Like I was a late bloomer. I had a speech impediment till like 5th grade. So I just wasn't like a cool cat. I couldn't say my R's, which is like terrible. If like Garth Brooks, Thunder Rolls, or whatever, you know, like.
Yeah.
But yeah, and I grew up, my mom loved 90s country too. So that's how I got into country music.
Got it.
And dug it. And then, so I wanted a guitar. I got like this starter electric guitar, dug it. It was an off-brand in Austin. It did really well, you know, but it kind of like had limits. And, you know, you get a guitar teacher and they're like, you play their guitar and you're like, that guitar wails. If I had that guitar, you know, everybody's like, if I had that, even though it's more the Indian than the Arrow.
Sure.
Always like, if I had that gear, you know, I could be there. And I remember I asked Dad, I was like, Dad, I need a Strat. Like I need a Strat. It was good enough for Hendrix, good enough for Clapton, good enough for John Mayer. Like I need a Strat. He's like, cool. learn a Jimi Hendrix song and sing it at the same time, and I'll pay half. So save up half the money you need and learn this to show me that you're serious about it and you're in. And he picked Bold as Love. And I learned it as well as a 12-year-old could learn the song. You know, not like an Instagram savant 12-year-old, but like an average 12-year-old. You know?
Yeah.
Now I relearned it, like a year or so ago. And I was like, oh, I missed all the nuance of it. And what I love about Jimi Hendrix is he's literally, when you listen to those sessions, he's writing those songs as they're recording them. So his confidence and freedom of being like, I'm going to mess up and I don't care because we're capturing it as it happens. We're capturing the idea raw, not like polished, not super produced and not even hyper good. Like Rick Rubin's a producer and he produced like Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers and Tom Petty's solo stuff and a ton of dudes. And he has this thing where he calls it hyper real, where he's like, I want it to sound like the band on an exceptionally good night. That's how he wants to capture rock and roll records, which is my philosophy and I love it. Hendrix was like, we're just going to get it.
Yeah.
That is so ballsy. It like, I can listen to his vinyl, like I can listen to his records and all day long. And I have an obsession with vinyl because you can't pick songs and you can't turn them back. So like playing guitar along with vinyl is incredible because if you're like, oh, I need to catch that, you can't without scratching it up and like wearing out certain sections of it.
Right.
It's kind of like just as close to playing live as I can get at home because it's like you're on the ride, you know?
Dude, that's gnarly. Yeah, I mean, Jimi Hendrix is just above and beyond on a different level than like anybody else, man.
That I got. This is a Strat, and it sounds. And a great Hendrix song would be like, do I even have? Yeah. You know?
Yep, absolutely.
Just like,
dude,
straight up like, purple haze in my brain. But this is the guitar I got at like 14, and it's
so awesome.
Yeah, and that's just the guitar into the amp, which is actually kind of a cooler demonstration of a guitar than. And pedals they're fun, but you can get lost in the weeds. It's very much that like Indian and Arrow philosophy of like,
yeah,
you know, it can tweak the sound, which can be really inspiring and make you play a different way, but at the same time, you don't need it. Like,
yeah. You can dude, that's so badass, actually, man.
Yeah, but anyway, so I got that guitar, and then suddenly, like, at the same time, I'm like trying to play as much as possible.
Sure.
In like my small town of Lexington, South Carolina. My dad worked in the capital city, which was Columbia, so like 40 minutes away. And so I'm playing like little gigs, like, you know, I was playing at like churches, you know, because every church has like a Wednesday night youth thing, and we're all like, yeah, let's see how many, like, you know, you're playing like a worship song, but you're like, and here's a ZZ Top, like just tuck in there or whatever.
Yeah.
And here's what I'm learning. Here's like John Merlick or whatever. And I got a little cocky. I remember talking to my dad, and I'm like, I'm the best blues guitar player in my high school. He's like, really? So you're the best blues guitar player you know? I was like, yeah. I was really into it. He's like, okay. And then Monday came around, and he's like, hey, we're going to go out tonight, you and me. So he'd called a friend of his from high school. He grew up in Columbia. And they had like an open blues jam. And it was most of the dudes who were like in the over 50 and rocking club is what I call it. Like they have other jobs, but they're just still gigging and killing it. So he takes me to his jam, and they're like, come on, kid, like get up on stage here, play my guitar. And I was like, oh, you know, because they're stellar. In my mind, my eyes were opening. I was like, oh, there's other musicians. So I went home and immediately started practicing because I'm like, I can't absorb everything I need to know when I'm around them. So I need to get more and more and more. Like, I got to get better. If this is the bar, I need to either quit or practice. And I've had a couple of those moments. Like, I had that when I was a teenager, like a young teen, like 15, at Doc's Gumbo Grill, which doesn't even exist in Columbia anymore.
Mm-hmm.
My dad would the only reason I got in is because my dad took me in to go play like songs. And it's actually also where I started songwriting, because I knew that blues has structure. Like there's like a 12-bar blues, and it has a certain structure. That's why blues songs tend to sound the same. And you'll like say a line and then you'll repeat a line. Like,
Right.
call it stormy Monday, but Tuesday's just as bad. And then you repeat that. They call it stormy Monday, but Tuesday's just as bad. And then the third line's different. But Wednesday's worse.
Right.
Thursday's also sad. Like that. That's like the structure of a 12-bar blues.
Sure.
So I was like, oh, I only have to rhyme once. So I would just tell him like, oh, like just play it, Nate. I'll take it. Take the song up in the moment with the structure. Because I was spending all my time learning how to play, I didn't actually have time to learn the songs.
Right.
So I started
like freestyling the songs almost.
Yeah, like, and that was like, I thought that was what everyone did. I was like, there's no way they sat down and wrote these songs. They were just freestyling. They were actually writing songs, and like, consequently, I still write like that. Like, we'll get everything ready and then turn on voice memo, and then like a whole song will fall out, and it's just killer. Like,
yeah, I saw the one on your Instagram. I actually thought it was like a real song.
The acoustic one, I was singing
yeah, dude. Like, I was like, oh, he's got some music coming out or something like that. And for a while, I'm like, and then it wasn't towards the end.
From that, but like that, I always make up songs on the spot, like as a joke. I do a lot of sound check, and like one, it works out the muscle, but also it's just funny. Like
yeah. No, it wasn't until you started kind of smiling. I was like, oh wait, this isn't a song.
Yeah, but I mean, I write songs the same way. It's just
just a different approach. So
yeah.
So you got all that going on, and then
then I experienced Nashville for the first time. My high school choir, because we had to be in chorus, because my mom's a classically trained singer, and she's like, you're going to be in chorus, period. So, and I loved it. It taught me how to sing. Like, it's like taking a weightlifting class and then going to play football. Like, you need that.
Yeah.
So I had this chorus, and we had something called a show choir, which I wasn't really into, but it was like pops. We do like popular songs, and you had to do choreography too, which wasn't really my bag. I don't move like Usher. I have really tight hips. So it's not really, I wasn't good at that, but I was good at the singing part.
Right.
And we went, and the competition was at Belmont, which is a private school. Like UCLA, it's right and it's a private music school, basically. Mostly music. They have a great nursing program too, but they have the Mike Curb College of Music Business, and it's stellar. So they had a show choir, and in the show choir, all the band had like stations, and the guitar player's over here, and there's like a hazer under him, and he's like playing, and he's ripping. And I'm like, yeah, this is cool, but I want to be that guy.
Yeah.
Then instantly I was like, I need to go to Nashville. I need to move to Nashville and go. So then high school wraps up, and I'm like, Dad, I'm going to move to Nashville and be a guitar player. He's like, son, I'm not helping you pay rent if you don't go to college. And, and I was like, Dad, I'm going to go to Belmont and be a guitar player in Nashville. And he's like, son, and I'm giving you like the diet version, but my dad's very like straight up. All my buddies love him because he's super like jovial, and like he doesn't get serious unless he has to.
Yeah.
His whole thing is like, first one to lose their temper loses. So he rarely yells. Like he sounds like a late night FM DJ.
Yeah.
He's like, son, we're middle class. Like Belmont's like 40 G's a year. So you're going to go into debt, like almost 6 figures of debt, to go make 20 grand a year and be a guitar player. Are you sure that's a good decision? And like a no would have been easier to argue, but you get that logic and you're like, you're right.
Yeah.
So there's a school just south of Nashville called MTSU. And they kind of, the types of professors are almost like, the caliber is very, very close. At the time, the guy who was teaching, and they had a songwriting major at MTSU. And the guy who was teaching, so they didn't have like a commercial music, which Belmont had, but they had a songwriting major. And I was like, I'd rather learn guitar privately and learn songwriting. And the dude that taught songwriting at MTSU wrote Long Neck Bottle for Garth Brooks.
Oh, wow.
And literally 39 other country number ones. He had 40 number one hits. So he was teaching because he wanted to teach, not because he needed money.
Not a bad guy to receive instruction from.
Yeah, and dude, Rick was the man. I loved him because he was spicy. Like, I turned in one song that I'd like kind of mailed in and written last minute, and he was just like, he called me out in front of the whole class. It was like my first songwriting class with him. He's like, Jonathan, and he was like, it was kind of crazy that he said this in front of everyone because he was like, you're one of the best students I've ever had. He's like, you're gonna turn in this bullshit.
Oh, wow.
And it was like, so he kind of like gave me a backhanded compliment, but at the same time chewed me out. He's like, this is for you, a C- song from an A+ writer. He's like, garbage.
Wow.
He's like, you're lucky I'm not giving you enough for this. And he said that in front of everyone. And it was like, it was a beautiful wake up call. It was like, why am I in school if I'm going to mail this in and like
Right.
do the bare minimum? Like, if I want to learn how to write songs, I need to learn how to write songs and take it seriously.
Yep.
But he would have anyway, I ended up going to MTSU and making it out of school without any debt. And which is incredible. And then I got an internship almost immediately with a producer in Nashville who did this Christian band that did camps. And so I started playing in this band for camps. And then I would take him coffee every day. Every day I didn't have class. And I'd schedule my classes just on Tuesdays and Thursdays. And every day I'd take him coffee. And my philosophy was, for a $5 coffee, I can get at least 30 minutes of hang time.
Yeah, for sure.
What this dude's doing. Because he was like right on Music Row, which is like Ventura of, like
Yeah.
place to be. And I'm like, how is he here? What is he doing? And then it ended up like, hey man, you're spending a lot of time over here. Like, don't you need an internship? And then I was also playing on records for this band I was in that he was producing. And he's like, oh kid, you're pretty good. And then he found out I would do production. And I just ended up working under him. Like, he totally Obi-Wan'd me. Like,
Yeah.
for years, like 3 years that I played in this band. And that was like a summer gig. I played camps, and it was like, so for 10 weeks of summer, we'd be out at this, like, in the 50s, the U.S. government sold like this church convention, this old Civil War fort. So it was like on an island called Fort Caswell. And we would like play 3 sets a day, 10 weeks, and like 1,000 campers a week, different campers every week. So it was like tour boot camp.
Jeez.
And like, I grew up in church, so I didn't think anything of it, but we're like also teaching like Bible studies for these kids.
Uh-huh.
And just like doing rec time and all this. Like, I was literally up at 5 a.m. and would go to sleep at like 11 p.m.
Damn.
And I made like, I want to say $250 a week. Like, the pay was so low. Like, your expenses were paid, but it was like $250 a week. I got on my first country tour after, so I did that, and then I stopped doing that. I got on The Voice, did all that, and then I got on my first country tour in 2015. And it was like, you're paying me $250 a show now, and that, which is not terribly high, but to me it was, because I used to make that a week.
Yeah.
And I barely had to do any work. I was like, do you need me to drive the van or anything?
Yeah.
You don't need me to sell merch? Like, I was like, what are you talking about, man?
Right.
It was wild. I got on my first tour and I was like, oh, I made it through all that, and I thought that was normal. So it was just like, it was stellar. So ever since then, I've just like, on Jesse's tour, the tour manager who's from LA, he like on the second day started calling me Jolly. He's like, you're way too happy to be here. But if you look at my career up to this point, like, I got recommended for Jesse offhand like 2 weeks before the tour took off.
Yeah, how did that whole thing like come together? That's
I mean, I've been a touring player in town since 2015, like known as a touring player in town. So
because she's in Nashville too, right? Or
yeah.
Got it.
And so her day-to-day manager, Matt, was asking around for guitar players, and he landed on me and my buddy Dane Kinzer. Dane's an incredible guitar player in his own right. We have different vibes. Like, I sing backgrounds. Like, I pretty much get most of my gigs because of my singing.
Yeah.
And like playing slide guitar and stuff like that, like specialize in what I love, the Southern rock thing. Dane's just an all-around killer player. At the time, he was like also teching. Like, so running a very complex like looping rig, kind of what Ed Sheeran does, but for a guy named Morgan Evans. He built that for him.
Sure.
And I'm pretty sure they called Dane first, and he said no. And then the manager, I think the whole thing was the manager talked to Jesse about it. I think Jesse was like, well, he has better hair, pointing at me. And then she asked who sang better. And he was like, well, there's more videos of Jonathan singing. And she's like, cool, take him.
Yeah.
That was it. I didn't audition or anything. It was like Instagram.
Strap him up.
And they're like, cool, rehearsal start in 2 weeks. And they linked me in with all the band members. And I bounce around between I'll play for like 20 different acts a year. So I'm really good at learning different music.
Sure.
So I had all the songs charted in like 2 or 3 days. And which is evidently fast. But I don't know, it's what I do. Like I learn it, and I was pumped to have a gig because I'd had a radio tour cancel. I was playing for a guy named Drew Baldridge.
Okay.
And it's actually a really funny story. We were playing like what was it? St. Patty's Day gig in like Illinois. Literally river dancers were playing between us and the opening act, who was Natalie Stovall, who I played with a couple years later.
Such a small world. Yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, we met and she's like, okay, cool, hang. And then her guitar player and I were friends. And when Peter couldn't make something, he's like, oh, call Jonathan. You met him at the Drew gig. She's like, oh, he was sweet. Can he play it? And he was like, yeah, dude, he's a great player. And that's how like your name gets passed around.
Sure.
You know other guitar players, and they're like, hey, man, I can't do that, but call him. And they have to know 2 things. You're a good hang, and you're a sweet person. You're not going to be a jerk. Because we only play for like an hour.
Right.
But the other 23 hours are super important too. Because if you hate somebody, making music with them sucks.
Oh, yeah, I can imagine.
That they'll learn the music and do it. Being a professional guitar player is more about understanding how to prepare on a professional level than it is about being a great player. Because I played in the honky tonks for like 2 years on Broadway in between like intermittent gigs.
Yeah.
Because tours don't last all year, you know.
Sure.
And so I played like every Monday night, Thursday night, Saturday night. Well, most Saturday nights. Definitely Monday and Thursday night. Or was it Wednesday? I don't remember. With Papa Bear and the Love Den was our bar band name, right? We did like note for note Eagles covers. It was blast. And some nights we'd make $50. And some nights we did one private party. The most we ever made was $800. But we got the CD lit, and he was just like, oh. But once you've done that and played for 4 or 5 hours in a row, like, and learn that many songs, learning songs like exactly how an artist wants them for a show is easy. But a lot of guys, when they play bars, they don't learn songs super well. They just kind of like I did when I was a teenager. But instead of lyrics, it would be like the actual notes of a solo or the actual notes of a turnaround. So they get the gist of it.
Right.
The spirit of the song, but it's not the actual notes. And that's not pro. Like, it's just not. You have to know the songs because that artist has listened to their recording 1,000,000 times.
Right.
And so they're taking their vocal cues. They're not counting on stage. Like, they're not counting measures. They remember what the guitar does right before they come back in. So if you don't play that turnaround exactly right, they could mess up.
Wow.
And stuff like that. Like,
sure.
And especially as artists get more and more developed, they're doing interviews or VIP, like meet and greets.
Yep.
When we're sound checking. So like they don't have time to rehearse every day.
Sure.
And sound checks are not rehearsal. Like rehearsal is separate. But they don't even have time to brush up songs. So unless they make the time, which is purely up to the artist. But like a lot of times on Jesse's tour, like she's so booked, you know,
yeah.
She has to have social content. So she's got to find some time to like glam up and then has to do photo shoots and then do VIP meet and greet, which always sells out. And if her kids are with her, then the rest of her time's totally spoken for.
Yeah. Well, I got a little glimpse of that life when we were in New York.
Yeah.
And that was
pretty chill. I mean, that was
mellow. Yeah.
We didn't have to play for 90 minutes. And it was like, you just got to be there and your support system is your band.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, so I'm playing this gig for this guy named Drew Baldridge, who's awesome. And he's really sweet. Like if there's I'll tell you about this later. He called me to fire me while I was on the Jesse gig because I turned down a couple of his shows because I was out with Jesse. And I liked him so much. I literally just spent the entire phone conversation encouraging him on how much I wanted him to succeed, to the point I'm pretty sure he was crying. Like, it was like, but I was just like, man, I want you to know, like, yes, I took this gig because I needed the money. And yes, I believe in Jesse. And yes, I'm going to be her dude as much as she wants. But if you can't find someone, call me. This is not a bridge burn. And like, because he was such a good dude.
Yeah.
And, you know, he's just on the way up. And a bus gig is a totally different, the money's better and the lifestyle is better than being in a van.
Sure. Yeah, for sure.
Wake up at the venue. You don't have to drive.
Yeah.
You don't spend 8 hours of each day driving to then unload the trailer yourself and then go play the show. So I was just like, man, I got to do this. But I love you. You're great.
Yeah.
So I'm playing this gig with him, and his other guitar player moved to Nashville with him from his hometown. And so, but he didn't really sing tons of harmonies. So I had incorrectly guessed that I was going to be on what's called a radio tour, which is Monday to Thursday. We fly to different radio stations and play a bunch of shows.
Got it.
Pretty grueling, but fun, in my opinion, because I love traveling and
yeah, it's part of it. Yeah.
So, he tells me that night that, oh, I was taking the other guy. Nobody told you. So right before we play the show, which like River Dancers are opening for us, it's not like crazy. It's in like a warehouse turned venue.
Got it.
They'll put on a great show, but you know, there's no like red tape or anything. No
yeah.
True sex appeal in the backstage area. And then I go play the show for him, and I remember just like being like, Lord, please help me pay rent in May, because that was the entire month. So if I wasn't on that, I wasn't making any money from him. But I turned down stuff because I thought I was
thinking you were on it. Yep.
Impression that I was on it, and that was like for May and June. And then that night at midnight, I had a call from the other guitar player for Jesse, who was like, "Hey, you came really highly recommended. We'd like to call you in for this if you're into it." And he was just like, I'll give you the download on what it's like, you know, pros and cons, and let you choose. And he was probably almost too honest. Like, he was like, here's what it is. Like, yeah, like, that's what it was.
Yeah, gave you all the nuts and bolts to it.
Yeah. And I was like, hey, man, I don't care.
Yeah, like, let me make this really easy. I'm in.
I don't even think I talked about money until like the end. And it came in like $150 a week less than I normally take for touring. But it was like, okay. Like, yeah. Would I say no to all of this for that little bit of money? No. And frankly, I had a blast. It was a great tour and a great crew.
That's what I actually wanted to ask you about that. The crew. I mean, it seemed like just through, obviously it's all cut up, but the footage for the tour itself, it seemed like you guys had like such a gnarly crew.
Dude, we had a lot of fun. Yeah, everyone just really dug each other, you know, and it's easy and certain people, like the other guitar player is far more introverted than I am.
Yeah.
So he recharges alone from people. So sometimes he would jump ahead and go to a different city. Like, say we're going to go to Seattle. He would fly ahead to Seattle and spend some time with some friends, or just hole up in a hotel in Seattle and like detox.
Yeah.
Cool. Like,
nothing wrong with that.
No, I'm painfully extroverted. Like, if you've ever done Myers-Briggs, I was like touching the E. You know, so they put you through all that testing when you go on The Voice. They put you through IQ testing so they can legally prove you were intelligent enough to read that contract. And they put you through, which is actually really funny because the shrink heckled me. He's like, "You're too smart to be a singer. You want a real job?" I was like, "Shut up, dude." And they put you through the Myers-Briggs thing so they can understand you. And if you're just not being dramatic, I'm sure, so they can like work their magic on you.
Sure.
Right before I went out for my blind audition, there's literally a dude right in front of a camera. Like, so what are you going to do if they don't turn? And you literally can't say, or 22-year-old me couldn't say, I don't know, I haven't thought about that yet. Now I'd be like, bro, don't think about losing when you play a game. You just play.
Yep.
But at the time, he got in my head because I was young. I was inexperienced. It's my first time doing anything on television, live television. And yeah, well, it wasn't live. Yeah, just television in general, like big.
Yeah, it's a big production. It's a massive production. Yeah.
And man, and speaking of crews, the production crew on The Voice is just stellar. There was a guy, Nino Aldi, who was running it. He was like in charge of the calendar. I don't think he was. I don't know like the hierarchy of it. He's a director now and directing like indie films. So cool.
Really?
He was so sweet. He gave me a killer time for audition. Like,
how did you get onto the show? Like, what was where did the idea come from? Or you like?
And
yeah, for those who don't know, Jonathan, we didn't even talk about it. Jonathan was on The Voice season 7. So yeah, people are like, "What are you talking about?"
Right after my senior year of college, which I didn't finish. I didn't finish college my senior year because I'm an idiot and didn't talk to my advisor. So I finally graduated in 2016 and learned more in the 3 classes I took later on than I learned from like 8 other ones because I was mature enough to go to school.
To understand it, yeah.
And not just like, oh, what girl's cute in here? And
yeah.
You know, like
everyone, yep.
Space cadet, dude. I had way you're just all over the place.
Dude.
But to wrap up the Jesse's crew thing, it couldn't have been better. Like Crystal on merch, Jason on sound, who just slams the mix. Crystal's the sweetest on merch, and she did the merch for VIP, and then they brought out kittenish stuff, so Jesse's boutique. So she's like selling tour merch alone, but also selling all this stuff from boutique, which then people like normal merch crowds are like, I'll take that black t-shirt in a large. You start putting boutique stuff up there and they're like, can I feel that fabric? You know, which is fine. That's their prerogative and that's how you shop that. But it's a totally different experience for the person who's selling. And she handled it like a champ, dude. What a stud. I mean, she wouldn't even stop to eat. Like and she's vegetarian. So I would find a vegetarian option at dinner for catering and then take it to her. And she loves coconut water. So I would make sure I had something there for her and just check out. Her boyfriend, who's now her husband at the time, I guess they were engaged, became a really good buddy of mine through that just because I saw a need and filled it. And he was like, thanks, dude. Like, I do that, but I'm not on the tour. And he's a killer drummer. And it was just like, of course, like, if Ainsley was doing this, I want you to do it. You know?
Yeah, no, you're looking out for each other for sure.
It became a family, man. And Rob, the tour manager, we're dope. We're super tight. Like, stay at each other's places. He's my crash pad in LA, and I'm his crash pad in Nashville.
Awesome. Got to have those.
Because he has 2 bathrooms.
Yeah.
Poop in private. I was like, sorry, Rob. It doesn't get better. That tour was an incredible experience.
It's such this whole thing's such a small world, actually, because before we all met in New York City on New Year's Eve, I actually, so that was New Year's Eve, without knowing, I obviously didn't know you or Jesse at the time. Yeah. And I saw you guys at the amphitheater in Irvine when you guys were in LA. Oh, because I was there for Zach Brown. Yeah. So we were there. Yeah, we were there, man.
Dude, that was fun. We covered Zepp that night.
Yeah, man. So that was, and I didn't even know, obviously at the time, but it's funny. It's such a small world for people who go to shows and enjoy music. I'm like, a year later, I'm like, holy shit, I saw him literally 6 months ago in LA of all places, or Irvine.
Dude, that's such a cool amphitheater too, man.
Yeah, it is.
My wife was at that show.
Really?
Yeah, she flew out and we stayed with Rob and his fiance Noelle, who's an agent and just, dude, bad to the bone. She's so good at what she does. And they were hanging out, so they're in they're videotaping solos from.
Yeah.
It was sick, dude. I love that show. I geeked out so hard on that show because Clay Cook, who plays guitar for Zach Brown Band, I just love his vibe. and he showed up side stage right before we did the Zeppelin song. And like, I got butterflies. And not to say I don't always have, like, I want shows to be great, but I rarely get nervous to play in front of certain people.
Sure.
And I actually love it. Like, I love when there's someone who like is a killer player, because at first you get in your head and you're like, oh God, don't mess up. And then you're like, he enjoys music. Let me help him enjoy music and play with that energy that's going to help him want to bring the energy that night.
Yep.
Man, I swear he gave the best show of his life after that. And I hope it's because we set the mood for them as much as we set the mood for the crowd. But it was sick.
That was a really good show, man. That was.
I love their Wheel of James idea too. And for everyone listening, they literally have a huge wheel, like Wheel of Fortune, and they spin it, and it's a bunch of different James songs, like James Taylor, James Gang, like Funk 49. What are the other ones? James Brown.
Yep.
It was just funny. They call it the Wheel of James, and they know all those covers, but it keeps them from getting in a routine because they have to have them all brushed up. And they get a crowd member to come and spin it. And I think it was a kid that night.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, and he actually put a lot of mustard behind it.
I think kept going.
He like, got up and slammed it down. I was like, your dad does CrossFit. Like,
yeah, for sure.
You know who Rick Froning is, you know? Do I, though? Because I just mispronounced his name. Who knows?
Who knows? But yeah, man, that was, just a small little backstory. But
yeah,
that was.
I didn't know that. That's sick.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
I was there. I was there in the crowd. I don't know if I was where I was. I was really close. I mean, I was probably within the first 4 rows.
Oh, sick.
So
like close enough to smell the sweat.
Oh, definitely.
That's honestly my favorite place to be in a show, because like as an audience member, because if I'm too far away, I'll critique, like I'll get into like game film mode, because I watch a lot of live shows to see like, what are people doing? Why does it work? Why does it not work? Like balancing a stage is a very simple thing. Like a guitar player moves over to one side to play a solo, so the bass player comes over here. So the stage isn't like heavy. They can be balancing a stage. So there's a lot of craft to it. But if I'm close enough that I can see them sweat, like I'm not thinking about craft.
You're just enjoying.
And that's really healthy for me to do. I try to do that as much as I can, just to get out of that zone. Because no one needs another music critic. Like,
plenty of those. Yeah.
We need the ones we have, you know?
No, totally.
They certainly don't need me to be a punk about it. Like,
no.
People forget their bills.
You guys certainly did that. That was a really good show. I enjoyed it. What on the tour specifically?
Yeah.
What was the best venue? Like what was the best show that you guys did on that tour?
Okay.
That's kind of 2 questions, but yeah.
Couple highlights venue wise. The first theater in Denver. So I got a Gibson guitar endorsement through Jesse, like through this gig. And I've never had a guitar endorsement before. And I didn't know what it was like. So they reached out to the tour manager and they're like, hey, we want Gibson to be the guitarist y'all use on this tour. Like, let us know what everyone wants. We'll ship them out. And the way I read the email, I was like, loner. And I'm kind of like an emotional cat. You know, I write songs. So like, I'm a bit like, I don't want to put, and people, all dudes are like this, like with your cars. Like, you remember when your car from high school died, you know, because that's the car you first made out with a girl in.
Yep.
Like, there's a lot of landmarks on that car, and you cry a little when it dies, you know?
Yeah.
I didn't want to do that on a guitar I didn't own. So I was just like, hey, man, I'm not really interested in playing a loner. I appreciate it. You know, and they were very insistent. And Rob was like, no, dude, they really want it. And I was like, cool. You know what? I do think Gibson makes the best electric guitar on the market right now. I was like, the 1959 reissue Les Paul is just a transcendent piece of rock and roll. Like, it's just amazing. Every time I played one, I'm like, this could obviously be worth $1 million. And they're pretty expensive. They're over $5,000. And I was just like, man, knowing I like that, just send me whatever you have that kind of has that vibe, and it'll be my backup. You know, just like it'll be on stage, it'll be there for the photos. Can't promise I'll play it, but
Yeah.
you know, I'll put the miles on a guitar, like, because my dad helped me buy a couple guitars. He kept that, like, learn this song and pay half, and you know,
Sure.
when I was really broke in college, he got really loose with the you only have to pay half kind of thing. Like, he was great, man. My dad's helped me a ton.
That's awesome.
Yeah, man, it is. He's a stud, which will explain something I'll tell you about later. And that's the beauty of playing live. That's the beauty of the responsibility we have to fans, is to like give that to them, you know?
Yeah, man. No, that's why I tell people all the time, there are certain like shows that, because in that business, it's like some people will remember some of those moments like that, like forever. You know, and not every show, obviously, but like you're potentially creating a moment that someone's going to remember forever.
But what if you as the artist could make sure it's every show? You know what I mean? What if you could go into every show thinking this is someone's first show, or this could be a lifelong memory they could tell their kids about it? That's where people like people will get, and I say people, some of my peers will get, in professional music, will get burnout on tours. And granted, I've never done a 120-day tour.
Yeah.
I would like to think that I would be able to keep that mindset. I mean, I've done fairly long tours, like 7-8 week tours, and never gotten tired of it, never taken my eye off the ball.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
Say in the South, Lord willing and the creek don't rise. You know, I'll be able to do that. And especially with the solo thing, like only picking musicians to play with you who also feel that way.
Mm-hmm. You
can really create that vibe for people. And especially after this pandemic, like I read the other day, Woodstock happened right after a big flu pandemic.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was at the end of a 2-year flu issue, and it was smaller than this, but it was still serious.
Sure.
And Woodstock happened like full bore, and people, and 69 August Jam in Atlanta, they were ripping down, I think, was it August Jam that they ripped down the fence? And one band wouldn't play, so the Allman Brothers played twice.
Oh shit.
Just like some gnarly stuff. But
people are going to be like, as soon as this thing's over, whenever it is, like music and like freaking shows, people are going to be like all in.
Just so in. There's an article Dave Grohl wrote for The Atlantic. And if you just Google that, it'll pop up. And man, I mean, tears were running down my face when I was reading it. I was like, Dave Grohl gets it. I love it, man. But
so the Denver for the on Jesse's tour.
Standout gigs. So in Denver, I get there, and Gibson had shipped me the 59 reissue. And I was just like, I can't believe it. And I remember I talked to my artist rep, whose name's Ray, and she's incredible. And I was like, hey, Ray, I love this guitar. Ray Vinton, she's just like, dude, all the artist reps, at least all the ones I've met, are these badass girls. And like, well, girls, women, you know, professional, the
yeah,
dude. And she and Beth and just, yeah, Heather is here in Nashville, but Ray's out of LA, and that's because that was the contact through the tour manager. It was all through Ray, and Ray's friends with my buddy Steve, who's actually Jesse's drummer.
Okay.
It's like, wait, you're touring with Steve? You got to be a sweet dude, and you know.
Yeah.
Steve's
it's such a small world.
Like family first, and like, oh, dude, deep music. So anyway, so that's sitting there, and I was like, Ray, I know sometimes you guys send guitars out, so like you'll send them out and you'll be like, oh, if someone asks for this guitar, like they'll be like, okay, John has it with Jesse. They don't have any gigs, so let's send it out. I was like, please, if you ever want this guitar back, just send me an invoice because I'd never want to give it back. Like I just need this guitar. She's like, cool. And yeah, it was just she just laughed. She's like, it's pretty special. And I was like, oh yeah, it is. Yeah.
Dang.
So so that was standout. The Beacon in New York was, I'm a huge Allman Brothers head. They have sold out. I forget how many shows. It's on a plaque. I think it's 250 something shows.
Wow.
Hold on, let me see. I'm gonna Google this because it's worth it.
That was on the tour? You guys played there?
Yeah, we played the Beacon in New York. And
oh, wow. I didn't know that.
Beacon, Allman Brothers, sellouts. And the Beacon's like 2,500 seats. The band has sold out 238 shows there since 1989.
Wow.
And there's a plaque that says it.
Well, yeah, there should be.
Walking up, and dude, the vibe was so on that day. We had an off day before, and the day before, I'd like sat in with the Sisterhood band, our opener, at like a hotel show because they did a partnership with Kimpton Hotels, and so they were doing like free shows in their lobby in exchange for hotel rooms, which was brilliant.
Smart. Good hotels too, by the way.
Incredible hotels.
It's really good.
Stellar. So I went over there and like sat in with them playing on their little lobby show.
Nice.
So I've had like, it had been musical, and our sound dude knew, he had some friends because he's from like, I think Mississippi, but like the whole Louisiana area. He had some friends that opened this thing called Gumbo Bros in Brooklyn. Dude, we'd had po' boys a couple nights earlier, or no, we had a crawfish boil a couple nights earlier.
I saw that on the.
They let us taste a crawfish boil that they were doing for a corporate client that night at Gumbo Bros. It was just as good in New York.
Wow.
Crazy good, dude. And so we just had fun. And so then we get to the Beacon, and the Union Cats in New York they have a reputation of being very sticklers for time, you know, like the stage crew and all that.
Yeah.
I'm not kidding you. They were pulling up chairs and watching us jam after sound check. And the bass player and drummer and I were jamming. And I mean, we were just like making songs up on the spot and going. And I mean, maybe 2 hours.
Wow.
I'm not kidding. Like a long time.
Jeez.
I videotaped some of it. I just like put my phone on and propped it up against the guitar stand when we started going, because I was like, and I ended up on this song. I'm gonna turn into a song like a real rocker, and my wife calls it Funk 69 because it's like this, like it's so sick, dude, and it's got kind of the James Gang vibes of there's a chord Joe Walsh loves to do, and it's like so that's a minor chord.
Mm-hmm.
That would make it major. So like, and it was like this huge jam off that. And it was just like so much fun. This is that Les Paul, by the way.
Oh yeah.
The Excalibur. It's so sick.
So that was during the sound check?
Yeah, just such a blast. And like hours. And we were playing like Allman Brothers songs and all these songs of these like famous bands that had all played there. And there was so much vibe on the walls, and the stagehands were like, pulled up a chair. And as I walked off, one of them gave me a high five, and he's like, man, it's not often we get bands that come in that actually understand what this theater is about. He's like, thanks. He's like, I'm gonna be honest, I didn't know who she was. I didn't know anything. He's like, I had no expectations. But this band, this is going to be fun. He's like, I'm going to enjoy watching this one. And to hear that from a stagehand is so fun.
Yeah.
It's so inspiring. So there's that. So the Beacon, if I had to put a number one, would probably be it. Although Crystal Ballroom, and that's not Seattle. Seattle show shop, which was a lot of fun. Crystal Ballroom's what, Portland, Oregon? Yeah. They have Voodoo Donuts there. The floor is floating because it was a dance, like
Oh, I see.
So when you get a bunch of people who are all crazy about an artist in there, it feels like you're on a waterbed. It's kind of disconcerting, like kind of terrifying, but also amazing. And Jesse pulled out a song that night. Just randomly started singing this song that I'd never heard before because I didn't have time to learn everything she's ever done.
Yeah.
Because like I only had 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So it was a song that was like, but it was also like her theme song for her reality television show.
Okay.
And so she just starts singing, and Jesse's pretty crazy about it. Like she can always start in the correct key. She just remembers where it feels like, what it feels like, and where it sits in her voice. So I just jump in and start playing behind her like we were writing the song, right? And the song's like, you know, it's that simple, but I didn't know that. So I'm hearing her play, and I'm like, Southern girl, city light. I was like using chords to chase the melody.
Right.
I ended up making it like way jazzier than it needed to be. A bunch of what I call varsity chords. And it was so funny because she was like, oh, thanks for doing that. I like what you did with the song. I didn't know you knew it. And I was like, I've never heard that song before.
Yeah, I really don't.
You know, and then she's like, yeah, you added a lot of chords to that. And I was like, she's like, yeah, we only wrote it in 5 minutes. I was like, oh, if you told me that, I would have kept it straight.
Wow.
But yeah, that was really fun.
You know what I saw on, again, just kind of looking at the tour photos and all that kind of stuff.
You did homework, man.
No, man, I do, because I'm genuinely interested in these kind of things. And one thing I always had thought about before, and I'm glad they kind of captured it, was the workouts.
Oh yeah.
Like the group workouts and like just stuff like that. Cause you just, as a fan, you just think people go from like venue to venue and play, and you almost forget about, like you said, the 23 hours or, you know, whatever it is of stuff you're away from it. And it's like, you still have to do like normal activities during that time.
Yeah. I'm either fit or fat. I don't have that, like, you know, that like rock and roll, like skinny thing, like the singer Red Hot Chili Peppers has.
Mm-hmm.
I was a chubby kid growing up. I earned my ankles on a treadmill. You know what I mean? It was just calf all the way down until then.
Yep.
And so that was all my touring workout gear. I've accumulated like, I have this pull-up bar made by a company called Trapeze Rigging, and it tears down. It's like 35 pounds aluminum, and it tears down into a bag. So you can set it up and put it up.
Wow.
TRX bands, you know, the ladder and all that. Those are all like, I'll always call a manager or a tour manager and be like, how much room do we have in the bus bay? Like, if I pack it well, can I bring this stuff? It only weighs this, like total weight. Like, and they'll be like, no, you can only add 100 pounds to the bus and blah, blah, blah. So I've kind of like finagled it down to.
Yeah.
But
you guys found time to get it in, though.
We have time to get it in. It's a blast. And when you work out together, it releases endorphins together. It makes people a whole lot less testy, you know, like a lot less grumpy. It's good. I also bring games, and I tend to buy those on the road, but like, so I have like 2 different versions of Can Jam. And then like whatever's vibing with people, because I have a cornhole board set, but that's kind of big and bulky.
Sure.
The small sets that are travel worthy are kind of lame.
Yeah.
Be flimsy. It never hits right. Can Jam, man, I found like a collapsible version that's made of canvas that's stellar. And we had like because you'll have off days. So like it would cost too much. So a bus rental is like $2,000 a day.
Yeah.
About then. I mean, this fall is probably going to be way more than that because everyone and their sister is going to want to tour. So it's with shows like with the routing like Jesse, you'll have like a show Tuesday night and then a show Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and then maybe nothing until the next Thursday.
Sure.
So the band just stays on the bus and travels, you know, then you have 3 days to drive. So you'll travel to like say you're in Washington, and then you'll go to. We had to skip Southern California on our routing because we played Stagecoach, and they do what's called a radius clause.
Yeah.
So you don't compete with the draw to the festival because they're trying to get 40,000 people to come to this festival.
Yep.
You can't play any shows within a certain radius for a certain amount of time before and after.
Sure.
So that's called a radius clause. And that's why festivals have to pay so much to acts, like to headliners, is because what they're doing is they're saying, we get you for this big show, and you can't have any other shows in this radius for X amount of time, which is why the guarantees end up so huge.
Right.
And people will look at it and be like, I can't believe they paid Lady Gaga $1 million to play, Coachella or something. It's like, they paid her $1 million to not have 10 other shows. Anyway,
Yeah.
In that time, and LA,
Sure.
That's a very populated place.
Yep.
Like a radius clause, if you don't get enough money for it, it could be bad business. So anyway, that's neither here nor there. But
No, it makes sense though. Yeah.
A nerd thing I've learned from like agents.
Yeah.
Beyonce Noel has taught me a ton about all that. It's fascinating and good to know. Like as I go to be, because I'll keep playing for Jessie as long as she'll have me. But as I go to have a solo career as well, it's important to know that to get it. But yeah, Stagecoach was dope too, man. It was so hot, our console overheated. And we
that's
dry ice in front of.
Wait, was that last year? You guys did Stagecoach last year? Mm-hmm. Wow.
It was gnarly. And then Gronkowski's side stage while we were playing stage.
That guy's everywhere, man. Somehow he makes these appearances everywhere. And now he's back.
You're here. Like,
yeah.
Number one, you're super tall. And two, you want to help me load some of this gear?
I mean, if you're here, just might as well make yourself useful a little bit more.
Tall boys, dude.
Yeah, for sure.
Dude,
oh, no.
Which I respect.
Yeah, no, can't knock it.
He seemed like a great hang, too. Eric, Jesse's husband, is...
Eric jumped in some of those workouts with you. I saw that.
Dude, yeah. And I love Eric. He's a good cat. He really is. It's cool to, like, play for someone, but also be a friend.
Yeah.
And... like Eric will call me if they're moving kittenish stuff and he just doesn't want to pay someone. He'll be like, "Hey man, like I'll buy lunch. Let's go."
Yeah.
Some boxes. And I'm like, "Okay, cool." And he's just a good cat, man. Like salt of the earth. I mean, he's a Midwestern dude. Like,
yeah.
Midwestern people are just nice. You know? People are just nice. I don't really have. I think I only had one negative reaction. Like one negative altercation on the whole tour, and it was just because someone thought I was being sarcastic and I wasn't.
Yeah.
And they're like, people are just nice, man.
Eric and Jesse, I mean, obviously I only spent, 3 or 4 days with them. And then, because I remember for the New Year's thing, you got there, I think a little bit later than everyone else. Later. A day later. Okay.
Don't like.
Yeah. I mean, there was, but that was my takeaway. That was the first time I hadn't met either of them, but like genuinely just nice people.
Yeah, good people.
Like super down to earth, totally good people.
They have a ton going on too.
Yeah,
a ton. They do a lot of partnerships, and they come from that reality TV world, which is like, there's no such thing as overexposed, which is a dangerous thing to get into.
Yeah,
because like your time is no longer your own.
Mm-hmm.
And, for every team member, you have an expense, right? So, like, if you have a manager, that's a percentage, like 10 to 20%. There's an agent who makes, I think 10% is pretty across industry standard for, like, agents. So, like, they commission what's procured. So, like, as you get bigger, your slice of the pie gets smaller, but the pie gets bigger.
Sure.
But if you're a solo artist, it all has your name on it. So, it looks like you're just everywhere.
No, it makes sense.
And it can be like that. So I think they're handling it as like super well.
Yeah, no, I agree, man. That's got to be tough to keep up with, but they seem to be doing a pretty good job.
Yeah, they're great, man. was a lot of fun too. It was like, it's called the Texas Club. And,
was that Baton Rouge?
Yeah, Baton Rouge. Yeah. And sorry, I shook it. Man, it's just like this. It's everything. I love honky tonks. I really do. I love bars and playing bars, and I just love rock and roll. And when I get to put that in country, I love it as well. And so it was just like, it felt like this rock club. I'm like, we're playing rock. We're playing at this rock club, you know?
Yeah.
And it was tight, and you could, like, there was no seats. So people are just milling, and which is really fun for me, because like I'm watching how people are moving, you know, like if they're into a song, they're grooving, and if they're not, they're going to get a beer.
Yeah.
And that's, for Jesse's show, I take it as a personal challenge that I know there are dudes in this crowd who do not want to be here. They are being good boyfriends and
yeah.
And they are just on the trip. So there's a guy who does like, I guess it would call production coaching, right? Stage coaching. His name's Tom Jackson. And the first national tour I ever did, like on a bus, like honestly touring with a route, was with a girl named Abby Ann, who I think just goes by Abby now. And we were opening for the Pentatonics in 2016.
Okay.
And she was like 17 or 18 at the time. And they called in Tom Jackson to help us build the show. Because as you grow as an entertainer, you start to learn, like, we need to have moments. So every song doesn't look the same because people listen with their eyes. But, like, all of us were kind of green. Like, we didn't and that's no slight to anyone in the band. It was just, like, learning that was huge. And having him as a resource. Like, some people hate stage producers or whatever. Like, that's their own prerogative. I'm here to learn. Like, I'm not a savant. Like, I'm not like Joe Bonamassa and incredible at 10. So when you're not a savant, you have to subscribe to the Tom Brady method, which is if you're not the best, you've got to get most improved. So I'm here on the method, which is like, I will grow every day. I will improve every day. And at the end of my career, I'll look back and be very proud. So that's just my stance on it. Like,
yeah, no, that's,
to me,
wish
like,
probably more people took that. That's a great way to look at it.
Well, if they all did the competition, we might be even stiffer. So I don't know.
yeah, exactly. You don't want everyone on that.
That means like, no, don't tell them.
Dude, I remember, speaking of Baton Rouge, that show, I remember like I was out there January or February. I remember hitting you up. Yeah. Because I was by myself. I remember hitting you up like, I know you guys were here. Give me some like recommendations. Because I had only been in New Orleans like once or twice, but I was there for so long by myself. And I'm like, I mean, there's so much to do there, but man, I was like, you came through in the clutch for sure.
Hey, man, I'm always down to, I get a lot of joy out of random things. You know, like I like to cook. I like to build furniture. I love writing songs, like just random things. And when you called me for that list was kind of like when you're sitting shotgun in the car with a friend of theirs and they're like, make a playlist. And then you have a moment where you're like, either I don't want to do that, or, ooh, I get to DJ this. Like, this could, if this rocks, it's because of me.
Yeah.
You know? And so I literally got that text or Instagram or whatever it was. And I was sitting right there with Ainsley, my wife, who, you know, she's traveled full time. We met on a plane.
Yep. Like, oh no, I can't give you all the credit because she definitely.
Dude, I looked at her, I was like, New Orleans. And then we just started bouncing and I was typing as quickly as possible. Like, she's like, this. And I was like, oh, this. And, you know, tried to like point you to where you wouldn't spend all of your money.
Yep.
Doing things, because like Po' Boys, any of those shops, like just look at whichever one's crowded with people that look, honestly, with a po' boy, it's called poor boy. So if you see a dude that looks like a contractor getting a sandwich, that's the spot.
That's where you want to go. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's like in Nashville, if you want the best taco, you need to go to the side of town where like all the car dealerships have the Spanish in the same size font as English, because that's where your Hispanic population is.
Yep.
And with the communities there, it will support the type of dining you're trying to do. You know?
Sure.
And man, there's some crazy good Mexican. Y'all have all the best. Like,
you know what? Yeah, that I think we're good on here. even been here my whole life, and there's still spots that I'll go to. I'm like, never even knew this place existed. I'm like, it's unreal. But
what's your take on In-N-Out?
Dude, I love In-N-Out.
Okay, cool.
I love In-N-Out.
You're allowed to not love it.
No, I love it. Some people don't. It's really weird. There's very few, but the ones who don't prefer, something else.
Yeah, which
is, and that's just
everyone's prerogative. Like,
yeah, I mean, to each their own. But no, In-N-Out that's good stuff, man.
Oh, you asked about The Voice, how I got on that, and then
actually, yeah, really quick, tie that knot on The Voice.
Spark notes. I was in a class at college called Artist Management, and my professor was Gloria Green, and she brought in this dude to speak named Keith Thomas, and he's a producer, manager. He wrote Baby Baby for Amy Grant. He produced, my personal favorite credit he has is Colors of the Wind for Pocahontas. He produced that. Like, he's just killer keys player, producer. He came in to speak, and he does artist development and management, or did at the time. I don't think he does anymore. Okay. And he was talking about what it takes to be a good artist and to take it like that, and what a manager can do to help break an artist. And my professor, Miss Green, was like, who insisted we call her Gloria, but she was like, you got to hear Jonathan's music. It's really good. And he's like, yeah, kid, whatever. Like, cool. He wasn't being dismissive, but like, if you're speaking and you're on the realm, you're not thinking, I'm going to find something that inspires me in this kind of class. Just how you are. Like, it's cool. So I emailed it to him right then because I had my computer up, and I shot him a couple songs, like 2 or 3, a bite-sized snippet. And he got back to me that night and was like, dude, this is actually really good. Will you come to the studio? So then I went to the studio and we hung out, and he's like, I'm going to turn the camera on, just sing a song. And I think I sang Ain't No Sunshine, which is like, hey-oh. I think of ain't no sunshine when she's gone. It's not warm when she's away. Ain't no sunshine when she's gone. This house, it ain't no home. Anytime she goes away. So I sang that song, and I feel like incorporating songs makes the story better. But he was like, dude, I'm going to send this to a friend of mine. You should go on The Voice. And I was like, or no, he said, you ever thought about going on The Voice? And everyone who sings in America has been asked, why don't you go on American Idol? What?
Yeah, totally.
So I'm like, yeah, dude, whatever. Like, sure. He's like, no, I know a guy. And so he emailed like one of the producers of the show, like big producers, like Hollywood producers, and was like, got this cat, you need him. And he's like, what's he sing? And he's like, you sing whatever you want.
Yeah. Literally.
Sing whatever you want. And he was just like, nah, we're good for this year. Like, we're solid. We don't need it. And he's like, all right, whatever. I'm going to send you a video of him singing, and you're going to like him, and you're going to take him.
Wow.
It was just like, the kid was like, whatever. And then he sent it to him, and then they put me in the audition process. And so I got to skip to callbacks in Nashville, which I felt like a punk about, because everyone, like, one of my dear friends, her name's Kensington Moore, stellar singer. She was on the show with me. She sat through the cattle call.
Really?
And, like, had this amazing underdog story of like 8 hours sitting there.
Yeah.
Like such a chump.
Yeah.
Like,
you skipped the line.
To the point where like I had a window for the callback, and like I think I waited 45 minutes for the whole thing, and I felt like such a chump. But it's funny, dude. I ended up having this really funny relationship with Cracker Barrel after that.
Really?
Yeah, because so like you go in and you sing for them, whatever. You prepare a couple songs and sing. I picked a song that had been on the show because I knew enough about the music business from college to know that if they didn't have permission to use the song, it could get kicked back last minute and they'd change your song on you. Because they'd have to legally.
Sure. I never thought about that.
I'll say something that was on the show. That way I knew they had clearance to use it, like NBC had clearance. Because that's the only reason somebody wouldn't let you do it. Like, that's the only reason they would care what song you're singing is
right.
A, someone else has that song, or B, they don't have clearance for it. And it was a song like Christina Aguilera sung on the show, and I was like, ain't nobody going to have the cojones to sing that song on the show. I'll do it. I don't care. I'm a dude. Guys don't get directly compared to girls.
Yep.
So I get a pass. You know, it's like me singing Jesus Take the Wheel. Like, you're not going to compare it directly to Carrie Underwood unless you're like, well, she's got better legs.
Yeah, fact.
But, dude, I had to work out with like her trainer, Erin Opria. I think I pronounced her last name right. Dude. And it was like a group thing. So she like came up to me and she's like, I'm sorry. I know everyone told me you're really into working out. Like, I hope this was good enough for you. I'm like about to throw up. And I just had like a great poker face. And I'm like, yeah, it's okay. We'll do it later. Like, I was dying, dude. She was killing me. But, yeah. So anyway, I did that song. And then they put you, if they like you enough to do that, they put you in this room with this one, in my case, it was a woman. But the one interviewer, and there's a camera behind them, and they ask you questions. They see how you do, like press or whatever. And I walk in, and this woman was like, "Dear God, be interesting," like sitting like that.
Jeez.
I was like, "Yeah. What do you want to hear?" She's like, "Just tell me something no one's ever told me before." And she was pretty LA about it, you know, like
yeah,
the whole vibe about it, and which, like, I thought was charming. So I was like, and it was just funny. So I was like, okay, well, I've been to like half the Cracker Barrels in the U.S. She's like, what's Cracker Barrel? I was like, oh, girl, you don't even know. I was like, it's everything about the South bottled up into one. I was like, it's like quilts, home cooking, coffee all day. It smells like my grandma's house. Like, it's chill. And that was enough. From then on, because I'm not in the sob stories. And actually, my grandfather passed away during that whole process.
Oh, wow.
And I didn't want to make it about that, you know? Like, my family was figuring it out. Who knows? Maybe I'd be, like, super uber successful if I would have left. But I don't know. It felt like not the vibe for my grandma.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, they kept circling back to the Cracker Barrel thing. Ended up, and my mom and my grandma are super into antiques. Ended up getting to take them into like the antique, like warehouse that Cracker Barrel has, where they have a Coca-Cola sign that Coke has tried to buy from them for like undisclosed amounts, like one of the original ones when it had.
Oh, really?
And it's like healthful and whatever. And they probably offer them hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Oh, I'm sure.
And then, so I got to take them into that. They gave me a ton of free meals. I mean, I even played at the woman who ran the music for Cracker Barrel. I played at her wedding. Like, we became friends. So it was just funny. It was
that's crazy, man. What the heck?
I play a lot of weddings either. So
yeah. So you're in
not like who did The Wedding Singer? Adam Sandler?
Yes.
Yeah, a great movie.
It's such a
plane
good
scene is hilarious. But
so now you're home doing all you got your singles, your solo stuff that you're working on, doing all your little projects. I got to ask, you got to walk me through the Hold My Beer.
Okay, so
that started like just because of the whole quarantine, or you always kind of been into like
the Hold My Beer thing started. Anyway, the Hold My Beer thing happened. So being a musician, I tend, because tours ebb and flow, you know, like you'll be out and you'll be busy and then you'll be home for a month. And in those months, I have more time than money. Just straight up, like I just have more time than money. So it's always been like, so then you get married, and then I got married December 29th, 2016. So you get married and you're like, suddenly my coffee table can't be Tupperware. You know, like it can't be like a Rubbermaid bin, you know, which nothing against that. Like it's just, but not in that phase of life anymore, you know?
Yeah.
So my wife has incredible taste. And so I always joke about like champagne taste on a beer budget. When the South, we just really, my family's from a swamp in South Carolina. Like my grandfather, like my dad's side of the family is from a town called Monk's Corner outside of Charleston. And we didn't, they left Monk's Corner when he played football at Clemson, which he went to Clemson just to learn math to run the family farm. Never played football. Ended up getting a full ride to play football, and then got drafted to the Colts when they were in Baltimore. But anyway, he was gnarly. So we're just like Southern. So like all the like Southern stereotypes I'm accustomed to, you know?
Sure.
Like,
Yeah.
my parents didn't want like they didn't speak with accents around the house just because they're like, they, you know, when they, both of them worked in, my mom was in, she was an educator. So she taught music at school growing up. And then my dad worked for the state government running computers and then private industry running computers. Now he works back for the state. But if you have a very like thick Southern accent and also have a college education, you can get kind of misconstrued for how intelligent you are in those settings. So they had faced a lot of that. So when they were around the house, they were very like newscaster, like they just like dropped their accent. So we wouldn't have to face that same, just what everything was, you know, like you want to make life easier for your kid. So it's really funny. I can totally drop in and out of.
Yeah, no, I've heard it a couple times. Yeah.
Yeah, sometimes. Yeah. But she's saying, he's like, don't waste all his time. Get to the point. She's like, it's been over an hour. Be courteous. And that's the great thing about wives. But
got it.
Yeah, so I built a dining room table first for Ainsley because she picked out one from like, I think she showed up like a West Elm one or something like that, and I was like, I can't afford that because that's like a vintage Les Paul, and you know it's like I always equate things to Les Pauls because that was like the holy grail guitar I couldn't afford. Now I get one. Thanks, Gibson.
Yes.
But I was always like, that's like a Les Paul. I don't know if I can buy that, but like I don't want to finance a dining room table. But it doesn't look that hard to build. And my grandfather, on like my mom's dad, was a carpenter as a hobby, and we'd done a couple projects growing up. And then I grew up in an old house. It was like a 150-year-old like pre-Civil War house in South Carolina, like a little farmhouse my parents had fixed up because it was in a good school district. And they wanted us to have a good school district, you know, doing the painting.
Yeah, sure.
So I was like negative help with my dad, like carrying his tools and like getting in his way while he's trying to like redo the plumbing in this house or whatever. But it made me love working with my hands and like look at everything as like, oh, I can figure that out. But then you also have YouTube, you know, these days. So you can watch a couple YouTube videos. So
absolutely can.
Actually, on our dining room table, I joined forces with this older cat at church. He's like in his 70s, named Carl Conway, dude. And he, you know, we sit near each other at our little church in Nashville. And Emmanuel, shout out.
Yeah.
Carl was like, I was talking to him. I was like, hey, you do like projects, right? Because he would show me like, oh, I built these shelves for my kid, you know. Just like, I was like, what are you up to? You're retired? I was like, would you help me build a table for Ainsley? He's like, yeah. So we did it, and it was a lot of fun. And like, I called different family members because certain members of my family are like, do like restoration for furniture. And I was like, hey, how did you stain this? Oh, you layered those stains? Oh, how do you do that? And, you know, just asked a bunch of questions, and the table turned out dope. So then when you do something like that, it turns up being like kind of like a flex where you're like, hey, babe, look what I can do. Then when we moved to a different rental house, and which is where we are in now, and then it had very minimal shelving in the kitchen. There's like 2 cupboards. And Ainsley was like, she picked out these shelves on like Restoration Hardware, and she's like, could you build something like this? And so that was actually the first, I think, Hold My Beer I posted was like shelves. And I was like, I can give my best college try. You know, worst case scenario, I waste $150 on supplies, but I think it could be cool. And so I just like watched a bunch of YouTube videos, and I've always kind of tinkered. So I had some tools, and my parents thought it was funny. They're like, my dad he like bought me some clamps and like shipped them to me.
Nice.
He's just like, sure, man. If music never works out, he's like, never hit it. You can at least make money making furniture. Like as a joke. Like,
yeah. Little subtle jab.
No, my dad heckles. He loves it. Like he doesn't mean anything by it. He's just like,
right.
It's like his way of like, he loves to poke the bear.
Oh yeah. No. There's a little bit of sarcasm in it. I love it.
Yeah. And that's like that athlete thing that sometimes can get you into trouble. I've had to like learn to attenuate that. Like certain people don't respond well to it, but certain people like,
yeah, you're totally right.
Like totally digs it.
Really?
So, just got to know your audience. Yeah. He's
hilarious. Yep. Someone could take it the wrong way, like unintentionally. And
yeah, he's like, dude, if you don't like, what's taking you so long to move those boxes, dude? I'll be 40 by the time you finish. And like when he says it to me, I laugh.
Yeah.
Like, faster if you help me, blah blah blah.
yeah, right back in his court.
Yeah. So I mean, but you got to know your audience.
Totally.
So I did that one, and it turned out great. And actually, like, there's this old TV show my parents loved to watch called This Old House. I don't know if you remember it. It was like, I mean, it was like aired in the 90s.
Okay.
They were the original, what is that, Fixer Upper?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like they were that. It was every Saturday morning, and it's like these dudes from the Northeast, and they have like these really thick Northeastern accents, and they're like just doing the thing. And their YouTube channel is amazing. So I kind of mixed their structural design with the picture Ainsley had shown me, and like just kind of riffed on it and did it. And I was like, okay, cool. And then, it turns into like, hey, we could do some hanging shelves too. I bet you could do that. And then, but it was kind of like, oh, West Elm wants how much for those shelves? Hold my beer.
Yeah.
Like, because in the South, you'll say like, hold my beer for two things. Like, I'm going to handle this myself, or I'm going to go do something stupid, which hold my beer felt really accurate for those, because any of these building projects could totally fail.
Sure.
I have no formal education in this. A total waste of energy and finances. So I don't know. It just seemed very comical and a little tongue in cheek, and
yeah, totally.
But it's also building things. What I love about producing music is you get to take something from these independent parts and make something you can enjoy with people. And I get the same thing out of cooking for other people, and in different ways. But like when people come over and cook, I love it. Like if I get to make like shrimp and grits or something and like really ball out for my friends, I love that. It feels so great. And then, the fact that like I just finished those sound panels for Ainsley.
Yeah, I saw that
yesterday. And they're cool. Like, could they be like, did I have to go to all that energy to make it as aesthetic as possible? No. But most of my goal was making my wife dig it. Like,
yeah,
the room didn't sound horrible anyway. But it it's like I get to add joy to her by it. And then like with the dining room table, we've had so many people over, and I built that. Me with Carl, we built that together, and we've gotten the host. It's a really cool. I get a lot of kicks out of it. I know it's not for everyone, but I really dig it.
Yeah, no, I'm like kind of jealous because I'm like, I'm so bad at it. Like I'm not really like a hands-on like builder, but maybe I am.
Well, maybe, but it could be like, I mean, you're podcasting, you're curating conversations that someone can not only like, I love podcasts when I'm driving late at night. So like, if I'm listening to your podcast late at night, not only are you educating me, you're also keeping me from dying on the road.
Yeah, exactly. Especially late at night. Yeah.
So like podcasts are fun, and they take a lot of work. Like,
man, I'm finding that out. It's crazy. There's so much that goes into it.
It would be hard to try to develop like a handy habit in LA because, and like, I'm not trying to throw stones at LA or anything, but like, there's just so many people per square mile. It's not like you have a backyard to go do. Like we have a carport I can do stuff in.
Yeah.
I'm not bugging anyone if I'm like, using a saw or whatever. And it's also like, we probably have a little bit more expendable income here than we would if we lived in LA because y'all's rent's way higher.
It's crazy.
It's pricey. I mean, I love the beach, but
No, it's just it's a pick your poison, man. It really is.
yeah,
It is a pick your poison.
there is something magical about LA when you look at it and you're like, Eagles were there, Jackson Browns there, like, and if anyone wants to know what touring's like, there's a Jackson Brown song called "The Loadout" that my dad just showed me. I'd never heard it. He showed it to me just the other day, and man, like my eyes started welling up because it's like everything I love about touring. It's just because Jackson Brown's just very aware, or at least when he wrote the song, he was just being super aware of like how the crowd felt, how the roadies felt. Like, man, that song will make a grown man cry.
Jackson Brown.
Yeah.
Yeah. No doubt. Have to check it out.
Probably more emotional than
the songwriting.
yeah.
So I was looking at before we jumped on here.
Yeah.
And this is how we'll tie this thing up. But on November 7th, granted, things go back to normal.
Yeah.
Clemson at Notre Dame. And you don't know this yet, but I'm a big Notre Dame guy.
Are you?
Yes. I didn't go to Notre Dame, but I had some family that did. I have some friends that played there and that kind of stuff. And it's like, my dad's like a hardcore Irish, and I just grew up on Notre Dame. So Clemson's kind of had our number for the recent years, man. But that game on the November 7th.
Okay.
Losing team.
Where are you going to be on November 7th?
I don't know. Maybe in Nashville.
Is it at Notre Dame?
It's at Notre Dame.
That's going to be a fun game. I hope you're in Nashville and we can watch it together.
Dude, man, I got to start actually looking at that. It's just, these things creep up on you. You know what I mean? Next thing you know, it'll be September. I'll be out there, and then all of a sudden you're like, dude, Nashville, that game's like 2 months later. So I got to start looking at that for sure. But
maybe I'll find my way to LA for that.
We'll say, you never know. You never know where things take us by that time.
Take a 7x7 and a strawberry milkshake. I guess.
Yeah. Yep. You'll need an In-N-Out pit stop 100%. But, well, man, I appreciate you jumping on the podcast with me, man, and kind of chatting through some stuff. We had our paths crossed, and I'm glad we've kind of stayed in touch, man. It is really a small world, and it's like, I'll be out there in a few months, and I'm sure we'll link up again.
Come hang.
Yeah, I will. I got to thank your wife for pointing me in the right direction while I was in New Orleans, and reciprocate the favor somehow.